Like the situation, the people, or even the place itself starts pressing down on you. Not suddenly, not abruptly, but gradually, like a gentle breeze turning into a storm. It's a difficult feeling to pinpoint, yet it always signals one thing. It's time to leave. Sometimes life whispers, and sometimes it screams, "You don't belong here anymore." But we don't listen. We stay. We endure. Why? Because we're scared. Because it's familiar. Because we convince ourselves that if we hold on just a little longer, things will change. But do you know what's scarier? It won't change, and deep down you already know that. Humans are remarkable creatures. We can endure until the very end, draining ourselves completely to please others or preserve something that's long since broken. It might be a job that has become a mindless routine, a relationship where you feel like a stranger, or a place that once felt like home, but now feels like an empty shell. Now think about this. How many times have you stayed where you didn't want to be? How many times have you waited for things to get better, only for them to stay the same? And how did that feel? The truth is, knowing when to leave is an art. It's not a weakness, it's a strength. It's that moment when you choose yourself instead of endlessly trying to satisfy the world around you. There's a moment, a fleeting, barely perceptible one. It's like an invisible line, and once you cross it, you can't go back to who you were before. It's the moment when you realize, that's it. There's nothing left to wait for. Everything valuable has already happened. But here's the hard part. This feeling isn't always loud. Sometimes it's like a quiet whisper inside. It doesn't demand your attention or scream for you to notice. It's just there. And your job is to listen to it. Because the longer you ignore that internal signal, the deeper you sink. Let's be honest, no one likes leaving. It's scary, it's risky. But do you know what's even scarier? Staying where you no longer belong. Have you ever thought about life as constant motion, a continuous, unstoppable flow? Nothing in it remains unchanged, and if you cling to what's meant to be left behind, you block that flow. You keep the door closed while something new is knocking on the other side. So here's the thing. The art of leaving isn't about defeat. It's about victory. Over yourself. Over your fears. Over your stubbornness. Sometimes the best way to preserve your dignity is to simply stand up and walk away. No arguments. No fights. Just leave. Quietly, calmly. And there's something magical in that. Because leaving at the right time isn't just leaving. It's a choice. It's freedom. It's the moment when you take responsibility for your own life. But who said it's easy? It's not. It's incredibly hard. Especially when there are so many voices around you urging you to stay. When people look at you with confusion. When even your own mind whispers, "What if?" But let me tell you something. That what if rarely justifies itself. Because if you've already started thinking about leaving, there's a reason for it. And you know it. The most surprising thing is that even when we feel it's time to go, we often look for excuses. It's just temporary. I need to wait. What if I'm wrong? Maybe it's just a phase. And so a day goes by, a week, a year, and you're still there. And the longer you wait, the harder it is to take that step. We adapt. Habit is like a web, soft, invisible, but incredibly strong. It holds us in situations we should have left long ago. It keeps us in relationships that no longer warm our hearts, at jobs that drain the last of our energy, in homes that have ceased to feel like home. Do you know what's most dangerous about this? We start accepting it. It becomes the new normal. And then one day you suddenly realize you haven't truly smiled in a long time. You haven't felt light. You haven't felt alive. But do you know what's interesting? As soon as you take that first step, everything changes. It's like sitting in a stuffy room with closed windows for too long and then suddenly opening the door to fresh air. Only then do you realize how much you've been missing it. The Stoics said we can't control the external world, but we can always control how we respond to it. And that's a powerful realization, because in every situation, we always have a choice. We can stay in what destroys us, or we can choose to leave. But then the question arises, how do you know when the time has come? How do you recognize that moment? The answer is both simple and complex. Listen to yourself. Your body knows. Your heart knows. Your mind knows. Everything inside you begins to resist when you stay where you shouldn't. It feels like a weight, like exhaustion, like the absence of joy. Marcus Aurelius said, "If something does not bring benefit to the soul, let it go." And this rule always applies. If a situation, a person, a job, or a place doesn't nourish you, doesn't make you better, doesn't bring you happiness, then it's time to go. You might be afraid. That's normal. Leaving is always a step into the unknown. But do you know what's fascinating about the unknown? It always opens new doors. When you let go of the old, you make room for the new, and the new always brings opportunities you couldn't have imagined. Imagine this. You're walking down a road, but there's a dead end ahead. If you stay, you'll just stand still while everything around you moves forward. But if you turn and take a different path, who knows what's waiting around the corner? There's one more important thing. Leaving on time isn't just about external circumstances, it's also about the internal ones. Sometimes you need to walk away from your own expectations, from old dreams that are no longer relevant, from fears that keep you anchored in the past. Every time you choose to leave, you choose yourself. This isn't about selfishness, it's about respecting yourself. It's about loving yourself. It's about living your life, not someone else's. So, if you feel like there's a situation, a place, or a person with whom you can no longer be your true self, leave. Don't wait. Don't try to fix what's beyond your control. Life is too short to stay where you're unhappy, and here's the freedom in leaving. With every step you take away from what burdens you, you move closer to yourself, closer to the person you want to be, closer to the life you want to live, and that's the most valuable thing of all. But here's the paradox. Leaving always feels like a loss. We're afraid that if we let go, we'll lose something important. We cling to memories, to illusions, to the hope that everything can go back to the way it was. As if, by holding on to a situation or a person, we can cheat time. But that's just an illusion. Time can't be cheated. It moves forward, and so must you. If you try to stay in the past, it's like walking against the current of a river. At first it feels manageable, but with every step, it gets harder. Meanwhile, the river carries further away the things you so desperately want to hold on to. But the river always brings something new. It carries fresh water, new opportunities, new encounters, and there's wisdom in understanding that holding onto the old means missing out on the new. Have you ever looked back and thought, why did I wait so long? Why didn't I leave earlier? Those moments are the best teachers. They show us that the fear of loss is always greater than the loss itself. In truth, leaving isn't about loss. It's about liberation. Liberation from what no longer serves you, from what has become a burden rather than a support, from what pulls you down instead of lifting you up. Sometimes it's a relationship. You loved. Maybe you still do. But the love has stopped bringing joy. It has become pain. It's like a flower that no longer grows, only wilts, and you keep watering it, hoping it will revive. But it's long gone, and you're just afraid to admit it. Sometimes it's a job. You show up every day feeling empty. The tasks are performed on autopilot, and each morning feels like a repeat of the last. But you're afraid to leave because you don't know what's next. The fear of losing your safe haven is stronger than the desire to find something new. Sometimes it's a place, a city, a home, a familiar way of life. You grew up there, everything is familiar, every corner holds memories, but it's become too small for you. You're like a bird in a cage, a beautiful cage, but a cage nonetheless. And here's where you need to ask yourself, why am I holding on? What exactly am I afraid to lose? Most of the time, the answer is fear of the unknown. The unknown is terrifying because it requires courage. It forces us to step into the dark, not knowing what's there. But here's the fascinating part. Most of the time, the light is waiting for us in that darkness. Every time you leave at the right moment, you're not just letting go, you're growing. It's a step forward, a choice in favor of yourself. in favor of a life that's filled with movement, not stagnation, it might hurt. That's normal. Loss always hurts, even when it sets you free. But that pain is temporary. It passes. And with it comes a sense of lightness, a realization that you made the right choice. One day, you'll look back, and the things you clung to will seem distant, like they belong to another life. You'll understand that they no longer define you, because you've changed. You've become stronger, freer, more alive. And that is the true gift you give yourself by leaving at the right time. Thank you for staying with me until the end. If this message resonated with you, if you saw yourself somewhere in these words, don't ignore it. This isn't just a story, it's a call to action. Look around. Look at your life. Is there something you're holding on to that you know you should let go of? Ask yourself, what's keeping you there? Fear, habit, the belief that you have no other choice. But you do have a choice. Take that step, even if it feels small, even if it feels scary. Start by being honest with yourself. Ask the questions you've been avoiding. What makes you happy? Where do you feel free? And most importantly, don't be afraid to act. Leaving at the right time is an art that can change your life. It's a step that opens the door to where you truly want to be. I urge you, don't wait for the perfect moment. It won't come. The best moment is always now. Start with yourself. Listen to yourself. Trust yourself. If this message was meaningful to you, share it. Maybe someone close to you is standing on the edge of a big decision, and your action could inspire them to take their step. Subscribe to this channel if you want more conversations like this, about what matters, about what's real, about what helps us move forward, and remember, everything starts with you. Leave at the right time to find yourself. Live the way you truly want to. I'll see you in the next video.